our lilac has finished blooming, which means it's the absolute best time to prune it. So go check your lilac. If your blooms have all faded, now is the best time, which is typically in like late springtime is when our lilac is done. Right now it's the middle of May and we live in the Pacific Northwest near Seattle. And so this is pretty much the time each year that I come out and I prune it. And there's a couple tricks that I want to show you to get your lilac not just to bloom, because you don't actually have to prune your lilac in order for it to bloom. Pruning your lilac makes it so that it stays lush and lovely and the size that you want. That's the main reason that you would want to prune it, because if you just let your lilac go wild, it'll get 20 plus feet tall, it'll get maybe a little gangly, maybe a little thin in the middle, but it will still bloom. So pruning doesn't equal blooming unless you prune your lilac at the wrong time. If you prune your lilac well after the blooms have faded, let's say you do it more in July or August, it's the summertime, or you do it in the fall, or you do it in the springtime before it blooms, you will be cutting off all of the bloom heads. So check the lilac, because as soon as the blooms have faded, you're safe. You can go and prune it however you want to get it to be whatever shape you want. So first, here's the tools we're going to use. I always have a pair of hand snips, and these are like the thicker ones. They're not ones I would use to like go cut flowers. These are to like prune a bush, but these are the last things we're going to use. Okay. We need a big heavy duty pair of snips, and every once in a while I also use my little hand chainsaw, and this is the most amazing tool if you're doing just kind of everyday garden work and you need to cut something bigger. And this right here is very powerful, but sometimes you need the chainsaw. So these are the 3 tools. I'm going to put the link down in the description below to all of these, so in case you need one of them, you can just click on that link. So the very first thing you're going to do, which is just going to make it easier as you move along, is do a quick search inside your lilac for anything that's dead. If there is one stalk that is clearly dead and it's brittle, there's no leaf growth on it, get that out of there first, so that at least is out of the way. That gives you that opens up some more space in your lilac so you can see, okay, what am I working with here? Totally dead, just a dead stick in there. We don't want that in there, so that comes out first. Don't worry about all the little tiny twigs. Lilacs end up getting all these little tiny dead twigs on some of the branches that do have good growth. Don't worry about those just yet. Just the big ones, like this, we don't need that in there. That's just in the way as we're trying to prune everything else. More dead stuff. Let's go look inside so I can show you. So when you go deep into this lilac, you will find this big hunk of a trunk, moss growing on it, and tons of shoots coming out of that main trunk. Well, years ago when we first started to get this lilac under control, we had to cut out a bunch of big old stalks in the middle, and you can see there are still a lot of stalks in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the middle. I'm going to use my chainsaw if I need to, and I'm going to cut out 3 of the main stalks in the middle. The reason why I'm going to cut them out is because we need this middle part to be able to get light and air in order for it to stay healthy. And do you see this new growth that's coming up in here? We want that to happen, because otherwise, as these other stalks get big and taller, what happens is this bottom part gets really bare. It won't have any blooms on it or foliage. And we have been slowly been encouraging it to get more and more of all of this beautiful foliage that is growing down here around the base. So when we cut out one of the stalks from the middle, we actually are allowing the plant to focus on fresh growth, leaves, and know it looks sad now, but blooms down here around this part. So let's see which one. I am going to take out a couple of these here in the middle. If your lilac is very young, it's a brand new bush, you won't need to cut out any of these main stalks. This is what you do if you have a very old established bush. Taking out one of the middle ones. Look, there is blooms on it. Some of these big ones that you take out in the middle will have blooms, but what's happening is that when you take out some of these bigger stalks, it's gonna actually make it so the plant can get more sunlight down in there and you'll get more blooms. Our goal with all of this is that we are creating the shape of the lilac bush that we want. If we let it go wild, it's going to be 20 feet tall, and this bottom part will be really spindly. It won't have leaves and it won't have any blooms on the bottom. When we take out some of these middle stalks, it encourages all of that new growth in the middle and new blooms. I must say, a small little handsaw is so awesome. It makes me feel like I can accomplish any of the different projects out here, because sometimes the big hand lopper thing is just not strong enough, or I'm not strong enough. Go check these out. They're so awesome. But just remember, this is a chainsaw. You just push this button. It's a chainsaw, so I still am so careful with it, but it's awesome because I was able to cut out some of those big, huge stalks and just cut them right out. Okay, so now that I took 3 fresh stalks out of the middle, now we're gonna look at the overall shape. And so far, we haven't focused on just trying to cut off these bloom heads yet. I don't worry about that until I'm done with taking a few things out of the middle and getting the whole shape done, because you end up cutting off a lot of these while you're shaping it anyways, and so then it makes it easier at the very end to just go and do a really quick little cleanup. So this next step that you're doing is you're going to take a step back from your lilac and you're going to look at it. Do you like the height of it? Do you like the shape of it? Is it growing like ours tends to want to reach out over certain areas of the garden, and so if those are getting like too big and long, then I'm going to trim those back. And here's the general rule that you're going to follow, is that if your lilac is 15 feet tall, you're going to take off about 5 feet. A large shrub or bush like this, or a tree, can withstand you cutting off about 1/3 of its growth, and it's still going to be able to be healthy, and it actually helps it to send up new growth. If you cut off more than 1/3 and you do like a really drastic cut, the lilacs can survive that. It's not that it will always kill it, but it's very stressful on the plant because it thinks it's just being demolished. So look at yours, stand back, and kind of decide, okay, about how many feet of this can I take off without stressing the plant out? And this is really when you get to shape it. I go through, and all those parts that are reaching out over the garden, they're kind of coming over the pathway, and especially those that are getting too tall, I bring all of those down in height. My goal is to help the lilac send up as much energy and blooms all around the plant from the bottom to the top instead of only to the top. So I bring it down so that I can reach the stuff on the top, and then I also shape the sides as I go around. And I ended up taking off, all of the branches were probably like 3 to 4 feet that I was cutting off of it. So you can go pretty deep on this as long as you're not taking off more than about 1/3 of the height of your plant. Every time I make a cut, when I am giving it shape, I'm cutting, and let's use this as an example. I'm cutting just above one of these nodes that is on the branches. And these nodes are on all of the branches. Even if they're not really little, you can still see them the best that I can, I try to go right above one of these leaf nodes. And the reason why is because when you cut above a leaf node, what it does is it turns that leaf node on and it allows it to get light into the plant. And so the fresh growth starts, you can see it, it's coming out right there. So this is where we cut, probably a month ago when we were taking some of the lilac blooms off. And now look at, it's already putting on growth. So as you work your way around your plant, you want to make sure that you are cutting right above one of those leaf nodes as best as possible. It's super tricky, especially when you're getting deeper into the lilac. It's hard sometimes to always get it above one. Giving it shape is always the part that creates the biggest mess. If you have a wood chipper, run this through your chipper. It's great to put around your garden, or it can go into your yard waste. But now we're down to just the little finish work. And now for the final little cleanup, you're gonna need those hand pruners, because this is where you're just gonna go in and I'm gonna make sure that all of the blooms, the dead blooms, are taken off of the plant. Also, I'm looking for any leaves that look unhealthy. This little branch, I don't know why, somehow it got stressed out over the winter or something bit on it, made it sad. Any of these branches that have some of those sad leaves, I just take it off because this is not going to be healthy growth anyways, and it's better to get it off of your plant so that the plant can focus on healthy growth. So when we're gonna use this branch as an example. When you go in and you're cutting off the bloom, as much as possible, you want to go in and cut just the bloom off. Only that part, and leave all of this other growth if it's a branch that you've left on your plant. Because the way that lilacs bloom is they put on this fresh growth now, and that is where the bloom will be next year. So that's why it's so important for you, if you want to have a lot of blooms, to prune right after the plant is done blooming, because now it has the whole summer season to put on that new growth, and then it develops the bloom heads on that in the springtime. So make a mental note, don't trim your lilac anymore this year. It's better right now. You can see like it looks a little flat. I'm gonna keep giving it some shape as I take off some of these bloom heads. But it's going to look a little drastic right now because you're not gonna shape it or touch it the rest of the year until next year when it's done blooming. Now, sometimes your plant is so old and so big that you need to do a really deep prune on it, and it's gonna look a bit scraggly. But just remind yourself, you are helping the plant take off the old growth so that it can focus on new growth. And that is how we got ours to be lush all the way around. It didn't have that about 10 years ago when we moved in, and it took probably 4 seasons of us pruning, bringing it down, cutting stuff out of the middle. So just know, this is investing. You are investing in your future with your lilac, and you'll have bushels of blooms soon. Because we've done so much pruning already, it really doesn't take very long to get all of these spent blooms off. You don't have to get them off in order for your lilac to bloom again next year, but it sure does look much better in the garden when they're off. And so I just use this as a chance to do a final shaping. If there's a strange branch sticking out or some of those sad leaves, I get all of those off too. Now she's all cleaned up, and quite honestly, we won't do anything else for the lilac until next spring. But a few last lilac tricks for you. If yours is just not blooming, number one, how old is it? Lilacs take quite a few years to get established and really begin blooming. Depending on the type of lilac, they can take 3 to 5+ years to begin blooming. So don't give up on it. They do need full sun. They will bloom the best with full sun. So make sure if you're getting to place yours that you put it somewhere that it gets full sun. They do need to grow in a climate that gets some cold winter. If they don't get any cold winter, they won't bloom, they won't thrive. So make sure that you check your growing area that lilacs actually like growing there. A lot of times greenhouses will sell plants because they're beautiful, but they may not be the best plant for your growing zone, so always check. Also, we do love to give our lilac a dose of fertilizer food, and there's these really great fertilizer spikes. They're super easy, just put it in the ground right by your lilac bush. I'm putting that link below as well. And we're so glad that you're here in the garden with us. A little snippet about Cider Press Lane. We bought this property about, well, let's see, we bought it in 2013, and today it's 2025. So it's been what, 13 years, 12 years, whatever the math is. But when we bought it, it didn't look like it does today. We have been tending the garden since then. And during that time that we've been tending this garden, we started hosting what we call the Freedom Dinners. And our space wasn't perfect, our house wasn't fixed, but we started inviting friends to join us at the table to have dinner. But these dinners were different because we said, we'll cook, we'll do all the work if you will just give a donation to help fight human trafficking. And that's how we started hosting the Freedom Dinners initially. All of the proceeds from the dinners go directly to Atlas Free, so that regardless of what we're doing, whether we are hosting a dinner at our table or we're teaching somebody about gardening, we get to turn all of the goodness of our life into a powerful tool to fight for freedom. So thanks for watching this video. Thanks for being part of Cider Press Lane. We know there's another trick to get your lilacs to last the absolute longest once you've cut them. This trick actually works for any flower that has a woody stem. See that woody stem? That woody stem is gonna make it so that if you just put this right into your vase, it's not gonna be able to soak up any water, which then means sad, droopy flowers. We don't wanna have droopy flowers. So the first part of this trick is you need a hammer. And I'll show you. You're going to take your stem with your hammer, bang it open. I'm gonna bang both of these open, and I'm gonna pull that bark up and off. See how our stem is nice and open now? Now it's gonna be able to soak up water. And here's the second part of this trick. Go boil your tea kettle and fill your favorite mug or any mug with some of that hot tea water. Do you see it steaming out of there? Those stems that we just opened up are gonna go into this hot tea water, and these stems that I dropped also into the hot tea water. It really just needs to sit in this nice hot tea water for, I don't know, maybe a minute initially. But let's say in a few days you look at your lilacs and they look sad. Like maybe that stem didn't get opened up enough, or they're not soaking up enough water. Do the hot water trick again. Cut the stem fresh, bang it, and then put it in hot water again. It is the coolest trick. I have done this. I do this with all sorts of flowers, especially when we're working and doing any like floral design for weddings or events. A lot of times the flowers that we get, if we're having to order them from the market and they're not fresh from our local growers, a lot of times those flowers, their stems have gotten closed up in transit. And when you cut the stem and you put it in hot water, what it does is it opens up, at least this is my scientific version, it opens up all of those like cells in the stalk and pushes the air out that is clogging it, and allows that water to go back up into the plant, and boom, it's amazing. I will like sit and watch snapdragons be drooped and then they're straight again from hot water. Roses have sad droopy heads, straight again from sitting in hot water. It works for lilacs and hydrangea. I haven't tried it yet on some of the spring blooms, but I'll let you know if I give it a go and it works. I've heard people love doing it with their dahlias. The hot water does this amazing thing to like opening up the stem and keeping it open so that you can have the longest vase life with your flowers. So make sure you do the hammer trick. bang that stem open and then give it a dose of the hot water. And in a couple weeks, when our lilacs are done blooming, I'll show you exactly how we trim our lilacs so that we get the most amount of blooms. Now, you don't have to trim a lilac in order for it to bloom, but there is a best time to trim it, which is right when it is done blooming, because we want to get all of these blooms off so that the plant can focus on new growth for new blooms for next season. And we love to shape ours. So here's our lilac bush right behind me. We love to shape ours so that it is lower in height. I don't want it to be crazy tall. Lilacs will get so tall, like 20 feet tall if they are never pruned. I don't want it to be that tall because the tendency for the lilac is to put all the blooms on the top. Well, if it's 20 feet tall, number one, it's way too big for our garden. Number two, how am I gonna get to any of the lilacs? And then all of the growth is up top and the bottom starts to look really straggly. We want ours, like you can see behind me, to be a nice lush bush where there's blooms all around it, everywhere I can reach. This whole thing is covered in blooms. Now, this is a really old lilac and it was super out of shape when we first got it, or when we first moved into our house. And so little by little over the years, we have been cutting out the big chunks and helping bring the height down. I'll show you exactly how to do it when we get to that point this spring. But for now, let's enjoy our lilac blooms. And we're so glad that you're here in the garden with us. Gotten lots of questions on how do you propagate a lilac? How do you take this beautiful bush, maybe yours is purple, maybe it's white, maybe it was your grandma's or your favorite aunt's. How do you take that and start another plant? There are a couple different ways that you can do it. One is if the lilac has sent up any shoots from the base of it. So here's our big lilac bush. Go look at the base of the lilac. If there's any shoots coming out, not from the main trunk, but coming up from around it, which we don't have any on ours right now because I have already cleaned it up. But if there's anything growing around that main trunk, you can quite literally dig it up, put it in a pot, keep it in a nice, safe environment where it's not getting super stressed out. It gets a little bit of sunlight, keep the soil continually moist. That shoot will continue to grow, and I think that's the fastest way because you already have this like big growth from the lilac. Go look for that first. But let's say it's a space that you can't go dig it up, or maybe there isn't one. Maybe theirs is like ours and it already got cleaned up. Here's what you're gonna do. You're actually going to propagate it. This is the lovely bloom. You can't propagate with the bloom. You actually need to have the fresh growth. So I could use this fresh growth next to the bloom. That would work. But the main thing is, see the difference? There's this part right here that has like a woody stem, and then there's this part that has that nice green. It's very soft. It's kind of floppy. That's the part that we want. So I'm going to actually just cut that part off of this little stem here. When you cut it off, you want to make sure that you have at least one leaf set and then the top leaf set. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the bottom leaf set off, and we're going to cut off the biggest leaf up top so that all we have is this little tiny stalk. So here's where the leaves were coming out that I cut off, and we're only going to keep this one on. Some people even will cut this leaf in half, and the reason why people do that is because we want this little stalk to have the best chance at supporting its life. If there's too much growth on it, then it's going to be so focused on trying to absorb moisture to keep those leaves alive that it won't focus on root production, and we want it to focus on root production. So in order to encourage that, we have this rooting powder. I put the link in the description below, and you want to dip your stem into that rooting powder, and you can see it's covering those little nodes where those leaves were coming out, and that's good because that's where the roots will come out. Now I have my little potting cells here, and I filled these with an organic potting soil. So don't, you could use dirt just straight from the garden. The best thing though is to use potting soil because it has better drainage and it's designed to work well in a pot and not get hard and clumpy. So what I did is I made my hole first. You don't want to stick this in without having a hole because it will quite literally just wipe the rooting hormone off. So I'm gonna gently put my leaf down in there and I'm going to tuck the soil up around it. My potting soil is already wet. I made sure that it was nice and moist. There's actually some water dripping out of the bottom because our lilacs need, anytime you propagate anything, you can propagate almost every plant. It's just some of them take longer than others. Lilacs, because it is like a woodier stem when it is in full maturity, it does take a little bit longer. So just know that you're going to be checking on these for a couple weeks. And what I do is we have them on our tray. I'm also propagating some snapdragons. You can propagate sweet peas, essentially any of the flowering, the cutting garden flowers that we grow. When I go and I pinch them, which encourages them to bush out and produce more flowers, a lot of times I will propagate the part that I pinched off the top. I'll do another video on that, but it's the same concept that you're trying to have this small little fresh growth, take the bottom leaf set off, dip it in the rooting hormone into your nice moist potting soil, put your lid on. That keeps the moisture in there. We want to make this like this greenhouse type environment. And now I'm actually gonna put this into our living room in a spot where the sun does come in the window, but this isn't gonna sit outside in the direct sunlight. The reason you don't wanna put it out in the direct sunlight is that the direct sun is gonna stress the plant out more than it can sustain. So it's gonna be trying so hard to grow and to keep these leaves alive that it won't focus on root production. So we want it to be in a spot where it's happy, so it's warm, and it is getting some light. You don't want it in a dark place. It needs to get some light. So every couple days, check it. Make sure that there's still like moisture in the soil. You don't want it to be super soggy because if it's really soggy, it will actually just rot that stem instead of allowing it to produce roots. So it's kind of this fine balance. Feel the soil. If it doesn't feel damp anymore, spritz it with like a spray bottle. That's the easiest way to keep the moisture level nice and steady in there, because you're not going to pour a bunch of water on it. You want to like spritz it with your spray bottle, and it'll probably take a week or two before you start seeing any new growth on it. Once you see the new growth, let it stay in this seed starting cell until it has a couple leaves, then transfer it into a bigger one. When you transfer it into the next size up, it can go outside at that point. It's strong enough to be outside, but baby it. It's a little tiny baby plant, so take care of it. You want to check it and make sure that it is getting enough water, and then as it continues to flourish in that pot, then it can go out wherever you want to have it in your garden. So lots more fun and gardening tips to come. We're so glad you're here doing life with us. Down in the description below, I put all sorts of great links to the rooting powder. I also put links down there to our garden planning ebook. If you are looking at your garden space and you're like, oh my goodness, I just don't know what to put where or when to start it or how to plant it, check out our garden planning ebook. We give you all sorts of tips. We actually give you the garden maps that we designed for our own garden to inspire you with your own space. We tell you exactly how much sun it gets and all of that goodness. And come join our email list. When you hop over to our website, we'd love to have you as an email friend. I send an email most weeks and we fill it with like what we're baking, sourdough tips, gardening fun, but it's all of the fun of doing life together. So have a great day in your garden.